Welcome to the Real Deal in Wrestling Podcasts. Biff Kensington and Ryan Sayo, the Queen City Express. Yeah, man.
I got this feeling I can't keep it down anymore. Bring me some healing, Saint Cecilia, carry me home to your house of broken bones.
Welcome to the Real Deal in Pro Wrestling Podcasting. You are tuned in to the debut episode of the Queen City Express. We're coming to you live from QCE headquarters here in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina. I am Biff Kensington, your host with the most, and we are joined today by my co-host, the smartest man in 5 states, Ryan Sayo. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing pretty good, getting pretty excited. How are you?
I'm getting pretty excited, a little bit flummoxed at some of the technical issues, but I guess everything worth doing is worth doing right, so we'll plow ahead through. This is the very first episode of the Queen City Express. This is something we've wanted to do for a long time. We've got some big plans for the show. But the one thing on everybody's mind right now is NXT Takeover, and that's what we're going to be talking about here today. It's the first of a 2-part series. We'll be looking at WrestleMania week. Both Sayo and myself will be attending this year's festivities. We've got tickets to Takeover, and we've got tickets to WrestleMania, so everyone eat your hearts out. It's going to be a great show, but Sayo, I got to start by asking the $64 million question, knowing you like I do. What made you say, yes, I will drive 11 hours to go to New Orleans for this show? You are not very fond of driving long distances.
Well, it's a couple of different factors played into it. One, I've always wanted to go to a WrestleMania, and Takeover just happened to be the icing on the cake when we were able to get the tickets for it. And two, working a day job gets pretty old after a while, so it's nice to take a break and do something fun for a change.
Well, there ain't nothing better than talking wrestling, and especially at WrestleMania time. It's the best time of year for a wrestling fan. It's a Super Bowl, it's Christmas, it's everything rolled into one. And, you know, just looking at these 2 cards on paper, and it is fair to say there's going to be a lot of wrestling coming up next week. Almost every major company is going to be in New Orleans in some capacity. Access is going to be a lot of fun. But really, the 2 big shows that we're most looking forward to are the 2 shows we're going to be going to personally. Takeover Saturday night in New Orleans, and then Sunday night at the Superdome for WrestleMania. As someone who is going to both shows, do you have a preference between the 2 right now, knowing the cards for both shows?
Oh, it's really tough. It's like asking a mother which is her favorite kids. But honestly, if I had to say, I might be a little bit more excited for WrestleMania just for the spectacle of it all. Takeover might have the better wrestling, and I'm really hyped for it. But WrestleMania, it's the reason why it's the granddaddy of them all.
Well, I think you have pros and cons for both shows. WrestleMania, obviously, they can do a little bit more. They have a bigger budget. They've got a bigger roster. It's going to be a long show. At last check, 6.5 to 7 hours of WrestleMania this year. That should include the pre-show, but that's an awful lot of time, and the card reflects that. At last check, 13 confirmed matches, and there should be a 14th confirmed as recently as this coming Monday. Takeover, about 2.5 hours, bell to bell. We're going to have 5 matches. We got the card laid out here. And that's what we're going to talk about today here, part 1 of our WrestleMania week series. We're going to be looking at the card for Takeover. It's just about finalized. Of the 5 matches, there's only 1 match left whose participants has not yet been announced. So there will be some minor spoilers ahead. If you're not a fan of spoilers, may want to skip to next week's show. We'll be talking about some spoilers. Most of the card has been finalized at this point, though, so it's not going to be too much of an issue. But let's go ahead and get into that right now. Let's lay out the 5-match card. It's a good one, folks. In the main event, the NXT Championship, Andrade and Almas will defend his title against Aleister Black. In a return match from NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, Ember Moon will defend her NXT Women's Championship against Shayna Baszler. Brand new title debuting here at this show, the NXT North American Championship. It was just announced. Going to be determined in a ladder match featuring the following lineup. Now, this is quite an impressive collection of performers here. EC3, Adam Cole, The Velveteen Dream, Lars Sullivan, Killian Dane, and Ricochet, who'll be making his NXT debut along with EC3. That is going to be a fantastic match. Just announced yesterday, this is the one that's going to fill the building up, I think. An unsanctioned match. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano are going to war, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to happen in New Orleans. Gargano and Ciampa are finally going to fight. If Johnny Gargano wins, he is back in NXT. If Ciampa wins, Gargano is gone. We'll be talking a lot about that match here today. And the brief spoiler alert, the tag title match is going to be a triple threat. And it's going to be duplexed with the Dusty Classic Tournament Final. The Undisputed Era, the Authors of Pain, and the makeshift team of Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong will be competing for the Tag Team Championships at NXT. The winner will also win this year's Dusty Classic Tournament field. 5 matches. There's not a dud in the bunch. Sayo, you're taking a look at this card right now. You know that you're going there live. Which match of the 5 stands out the most to you right now?
I think most people are going to have to say they're the most hyped for Ciampa and Gargano. The heel work from Ciampa the past few months has just been outstanding. If he makes it to the ring without getting pelted in garbage to the point to where he can't stand anymore, I would be surprised. You got some other good matches here. All of them are probably going to deliver. I've never seen a ladder match in person. I'm really hyped up for that. I think Almas and Black for the NXT title has the potential to be one of the sleeper hits of the weekend. Both are great performers and always put on some good matches. Should be a fun show all around, though.
Well, let's go ahead and look at this card piece by piece. This will be the final card, barring any unforeseen injury. And we'll start it off with the NXT Women's Championship match. This is the only return match on the card in the context of NXT. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano did wrestle in the Cruiserweight Classic. It's a bit of a different issue. It's kind of before their feud began. But Ember Moon and Shayna Baszler, NXT Women's Championship. I think we both agree this might be the weakest match on the card, which is saying a lot because this match still should be pretty fantastic.
It was a pretty good match the last time they went around. A lot of the working of the arm from Baszler to Moon was really good. The ending to that match fell a little flat with me. I'm hoping this match will be a little bit better, but we'll just have to see how they play it out.
Well, do you have a prediction on who you think might walk out with the title?
I'm going to say probably Baszler this time around. I could see them setting up for Baszler and probably someone like Kairi Sane to go at it in the future. I think Ember Moon's time in NXT is slowly coming to an end, and she's going to be going up sooner rather than later.
Well, let me ask you this question as well, and it's kind of tied into that. It's something we'll be talking about off and on during the podcast today. But, you know, especially at this time of the year, we're not just looking at TakeOver, but we're also looking ahead to call-ups after WrestleMania. Generally, the Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania. We're going to see some names coming up from NXT, and Ember Moon has been rumored as one of those names. We have a situation with the titles on Raw and SmackDown where we could be in need of some new challengers. Ember Moon and Asuka have a history. Do you think Ember Moon could be one of the call-ups, or do you think we could be seeing the appearance of the Iconic Duo?
It's a very real possibility that we'll see both of them called up. The women's division on Raw and SmackDown has been floundering a little bit here as of late. Ember Moon moving up. They've got a story already built in with Asuka. They could very well push Ember to be the next one to go for Asuka, assuming she wins at WrestleMania, which we'll get to that on another show. But I feel like that would probably be their big money feud for the women's division moving forward.
Well, I mean, look, you have to consider some things with Ember Moon. She was under a lot of pressure when she arrived. I think pretty early on we recognized that Ember was going to replace Asuka in NXT. And that's really not a fair position to be put into, having to follow someone that was undefeated. We can argue the merits of how she won the title. I am of the opinion that not winning the title from the previous champion kind of hurt her. And it really put her in a bad position given the fact that she was going to go straight into this angle with Shayna Baszler. who Shayna Baszler, her fighting credentials are well established. She was MMA fighter. We know that she can go in a fight. We know that she's had some training wrestling-wise, so she can hold her own. Ember, I think, suffers more than anything. Really, her promos are not that good. Now, I have seen her on the independent scene. She can wrestle. She has in-ring talent. It's not a matter of not being able to carry her weight in the ring. I just don't know that her character really translates well with audiences. I don't know that she's really connecting all that well.
I can see where you're coming from. The character work is a little different from what most of the other women are doing right now in division. A little bit more character based than it is more of a real life persona. Blew up, as in the case of most people, like your iconic duos and such of that nature. I do agree with you. I feel like her winning the title the way she did not do her any favors. It would have been better if somebody else had won it and then she possibly won it from them in the future. Always going to look at her and think that, well, she wasn't quite able to beat Asuka, so she really probably is not where she needs to be. That's why if she does move up, I could see them putting her into a feud and she would probably get that revenge against her later down the line.
Well, that's going to be interesting to see because, like you said, there is a ready-made story between Asuka and Ember Moon when she does move up. But I think a lot of it also is going to come down to Shayna Baszler's friend, Ronda Rousey, and how she goes on the main roster. Her debut coming up at WrestleMania could tell us a lot about what to expect from her. But regardless, I think that the WWE is going to be all in with her. I think they're going to really push her hard. She's going to be a force to be reckoned with in that division. And as long as Ronda Rousey is there, as long as you have Asuka, Charlotte, the other four horsewomen, I think you're going to see a problem with a lot of new women coming up of there being kind of a logjam, upward mobility. I don't know what Ember Moon is going to be able to do when she gets to the main roster. She has talent. She can go in the ring, and that's really the big hurdle to cross in 2018. The character work, it'll come. The promos, they'll come. But it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. Shayna Baszler, look, whatever you think about Shayna Baszler as an in-ring performer, I see some people talk about her lack of a character. That's really not fair to her. I don't think that's very fair criticism. She plays an exceptionally good bully heel. She's got that character down pat. You can tell that she's a bully. You can tell that she doesn't really care. She gives no quarter to anyone that she faces. And that's a kind of character that will go well in a promotion like NXT where the work in the ring is really what drives the action. I think it's going to be a good match. It may not be as good as some of the other matches on the card, but if that is the weakest match on the card, we could be in for a treat. So we'll just have to see what happens. That's not the only title being defended, though, of course. We mentioned a few moments ago the NXT Tag Team Championship match. This is a little bit confusing if you haven't been following the spoilers. It's a triple threat match. The Undisputed Era defending their titles against the Authors of Pain and Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong. Originally, the Authors of Pain and Dunne and Strong were supposed to meet this coming week to determine who would win the Dusty Rhodes Classic Tag Team Tournament. The winner of that match was supposed to go on and face the Undisputed Era for the NXT Tag Team Championship. Spoiler alert, that match does not have a conclusion. The Undisputed Era hits the ring, takes everyone out. So it leads to a triple threat match where the winners of the match in New Orleans not only win the tag titles, but they also win the Dusty Classic. We were talking a little bit earlier off the air. You didn't seem as thrilled with this match as I did, but it still should be a really fantastic match.
Well, it might be a little wonky the way I want to say this, but I feel like it's going to be a great match, but my concern and my worry is it's just going to be a copy and paste of the DIY Revival and Authors of Pain match where Undisputed Era, Pete Dunne, and Roger Strong are probably going to be focusing all their attention on Authors of Pain. You're going to get them knocked out of the ring. They're going to be powdered out on the outside for a little bit, and then the other two will go at it. Still will probably be a fantastic match. I just hope it's not something that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting, too, to see where this goes on the card. As most people know by now, Adam Cole is going to be pulling double duty in New Orleans. Bobby Fish is out with a knee injury. He'll be out for several months. So he'll be working the tag title match as well, representing the Undisputed Era. He's also in the North American Championship ladder match, which we'll be talking about here shortly. The Authors of Pain, Authors of Pain have been around for a while now. They are rumored to be a call-up. I can't really see them staying in NXT beyond New Orleans. There's really nothing left for them to accomplish. Pete Dunne and Roddy Strong, it's a makeshift team. It's not exactly a team that you would expect to be sticking around long term, especially with Roderick Strong. He's been working more and more on 205 Live here the last few months. Pete Dunne, of course, has his commitments in the UK. So this is very much kind of a hodgepodge tag team match. But look, it comes down to this. NXT has proven one thing above all other properties in WWE: adaptability. I think that with the time they have to lay everything out, especially in the tag team scene, tag team wrestling seems to be a forte of NXT. Even when it seems like the division is down, the NXT tag team scene really is one of the best parts of the show. You look at the quality of the workers involved in this match, from Undisputed Era, Pete Dunne and Roddy Strong. That's four of the best in the business. The Authors of Pain have developed into an exceptionally good big man team. And of course, they have a lot in store for them on the main roster too, so they'll have a good showing in New Orleans. I think if you can get past the unusual nature of this match and kind of, hand wave the story away a little bit, if you're just taking this match purely from an in-ring perspective, I think we're going to be in for a real treat.
Oh, I agree. I think, like I said, I'm worried that it might be something I've seen before, and sometimes, the old saying, if the wheel isn't broke, don't fix it. It's going to be a great match. I just want it to be something different, and I'm hoping that it can be.
Well, we'll see what happens. I don't think they're going to take the title off the Undisputed Era. They could. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be an interesting match. It's going to be a fun match, and it's going to be a hard-hitting match with the Authors of Pain in there. To say nothing of Pete Dunne and Roddy Strong. But that leads into our second Adam Cole sighting of the night in New Orleans. This match, really the talk of the internet wrestling community when it was first announced. The NXT North American Championship, a brand new mid-card title debuting for the brand. And it will be decided at Takeover in New Orleans in a ladder match. The full rundown of participants: EC3, Adam Cole, the Velveteen Dream, Lars Sullivan, Killian Dane, and the debuting Ricochet. Actually, I stand corrected. I believe Ricochet actually had his in-ring debut a few weeks ago. But this will definitely be his first takeover, along with EC3's first takeover. Just looking at that lineup, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for this ladder match?
Oh, I'm going to put it a solid 9. You got so much talent there. The history of EC3, I don't know a lot of his in-ring work. I know that he was in TNA for a while and really started to make his name there, and I know he was previously in WWE for a while and it didn't last. Velveteen Dream has really come on as one of the more out there characters, but at the same time, he's one of the more entertaining. Adam Cole is going to find a way to get himself murdered during this match if he isn't already murdered from the tag match. Lars Sullivan and Killian Dane, it's just your two big hosses. I expect them to go at it a few times, and then you've got Ricochet, who's probably going to be flying around all over the place. It should just be an absolute blast.
Yeah, you have so many contrasting styles in this match. Ricochet, his pedigree is without equal. He's one of the most athletic and talented in-ring performers in the world. He's wrestled all over. EC3, say what you will about his in-ring work, he's definitely a character. He's got a real presence about him. You can tell that he's come a long way since his early days in WWE. Velveteen Dream, what more can you say about this guy? He's a future star in the making. If you miss on Velveteen Dream, you're doing something wrong. He's got that talent, and he's, to consider where he's at this stage in his career, this young in the business still. He hasn't been around for very long. He's going to be something special. And I think this match could be an excellent showcase for him. He's had, showcase matches before. Of course, his match with Aleister Black at Takeover War Games last November was fantastic. He's just really been on fire. And I think, when you look at the concept behind the North American Championship, it's really a mid-card title for NXT. A lot of people are going to sit back and say, NXT only broadcasts 60 minutes a week. Why do you need a mid-card title? People like Velveteen Dream is why you need a mid-card title. You're not going to have Velveteen Dream supplant Aleister Black just yet in the main event scene. Aleister Black is almost certainly going to walk out of New Orleans with the title. But you want Velveteen Dream to have something that he can hold on to, something that he can defend. It gives extra stakes to matches. And if there's one brand that could stand to increase their production time, it would be NXT. At 2.5 hours, takeovers fly by. In 60 minutes a week, that's really, plenty of time. You could add more time if you need to, but honestly, I don't even think you have to. I think that you have enough talent in NXT. The depth chart is there. The people running NXT have a great concept to work from. They know what they're doing. They've earned a lot of faith over the years from everything that they've put on the air. I think this is going to be a good thing. And when you add in so many diverse talents into one match, we can look at Lars Sullivan and Killian Dane. That right there is going to be a very unique aspect to this match. You have people of size. You have people who are considered your hosses, as you mentioned earlier. Then you have people like Ricochet and Velveteen Dream, Adam Cole. They are not very big. So it's going to be an interesting contrast between those that can really move around the ring and those that you would consider more to be bruisers. But this is going to be a fantastic match. I'm really looking forward to this one.
As am I. It's going to be tough to decide who might come out of this one. They've heard rumors that Ricochet is going to be put up to 205 sooner rather than later. Killian Dane, also part of that Sanity group. I imagine they're probably limited with their NXT time that's left. Sullivan's had a pretty good showing so far. Velveteen Dream, honestly, with it being more of a mid-card title and him, I've already had his feud with Aleister Black, and if Black is the one that comes out victorious at the end of the show, I could see them putting the belt on him to give him something to do. Adam Cole as well, he could have it. EC3 is another possibility, but I feel like EC3 is probably going to be more in the main event scene sooner rather than later. So if I had to pick for this match, it's a tough one, but I'm thinking Velveteen Dream might come out with it. If nothing else, I'm hoping to see his elbow drop off the top of a ladder.
That would be nice. I will grant you that. I got to be honest with you, looking at this match, I think the injury to Bobby Fish may change things up a little bit, especially if the Undisputed Era walks out with the tag titles still in their possession after New Orleans. Whether Adam Cole is going to pull double duty moving forward as both a singles champion and as a tag champion remains to be seen. They'll probably have to play that by ear, but you have so many good choices in this match. This is one of the best types of matches, not just looking at it from the perspective it's an exciting match variant, ladder matches, the car crash genre. Ladder matches are always going to be a lot of fun, but just looking at the participants, what makes this match so special is you have 6 people in the ring, and honestly, 5 of them, you could make a case to say, yes, they have a good chance of walking out the new North American champion.
I'd agree, and that's the best thing about wrestling is when it's not predictable. And like I said, I think Velveteen Dream might come out with it. It'll give him more TV time. It'll put something for him to be working with. It'll give him that little extra that I think he could use. But that's not saying that I don't see Adam Cole coming out with it, or EC3 coming out with it, or Lars Sullivan even coming out with it. It could be any of these people, and that's what makes this match so exciting, outside of the fact that it's just a bunch of quality workers putting on a show together.
Well, they should be given a lot of time, and it should be a very prominent feature of the card in New Orleans with the debut of the new title. It's going to be a good match. This whole show is full of good matches, and we're going to jump ahead now to the main event, what we assume to be the main event. for the NXT Championship. Andrade Cien Almas defending his title against Aleister Black. This match in particular feels like one of those matches where you know it's going to be good going in. The story has been okay. They've done some work to build it up. The amount of talent on this card, the matches that have been signed, it almost makes the main event feel kind of like a sleeper hit. You mentioned earlier it could be one of the sleeper hits of the weekend, and I tend to agree. You look at this match on paper, it should be fabulous. Both Almas and Black are at the peak of their work in NXT right now. Andrade Almas has been a revelation as the NXT champion. He kind of surprised everybody when he won the title. Then he went out and had that absolutely incredible match with Johnny Gargano. He's a rumored call-up. Aleister Black looks to be the new face of NXT moving forward. So I could easily see a title change here, and I don't think that it would be outside the realm of possibility to predict that. But honestly, whatever your opinion on the match is, it should be just a hard-hitting, brutal encounter.
I have always had this problem with Aleister Black and, to an extent, Andrade Almas matches. I'm never excited for them going in, but as soon as they get in the ring and the bell rings, I am just 100% focused on the match and I can't look away. Black has had some really good matches, and Almas has also had some really good matches. I think Almas is probably destined to be up on the main roster. They are in pretty big need of a Latino star up there. I know they've been wanting to push into Mexico for a little while now, and I could see him trying to slide in and fill that role. Aleister Black as well has just been on an absolute tear. Every match he's in, he is just kicking somebody's head off, and it's just an absolute joy to watch him. Like I said, I don't know why I don't get excited until they're in the ring, but I do think this has the possibility of being one of the best matches of the weekend.
Well, I think especially in the case of Andrade Cien Almas, I think the problem for longtime NXT fans is when he first came in, he did not really work out right away. And so I think the success of his heel run, ever since he got paired off with Zelina Vega, I think it's caught a lot of people by surprise how good he actually is. If you've been following his career before he came to NXT, you knew his pedigree coming in. You knew what he could do in the ring. But what you do elsewhere does not always translate into what you do in NXT or WWE. And so when he first arrived, he never really caught on that much. He was almost kind of a forgotten person on the roster. He was just kind of there. He was just a body. But winning the title from Drew Galloway, that was a shocking result at the time. But he silenced any remaining doubters in Philadelphia. Words cannot express how great that match with Johnny Gargano was. And we give full credit to Johnny Gargano, too, in that match. It wasn't a one-way street. Those two guys went out and wrestled the match of their lives, and they put on the best NXT Championship match we've ever seen, and arguably one of the best NXT matches, period. So you have in Almas a guy who's riding high. He's destined for the main roster, and he probably will be a big star on the main roster, defending his championship against the guy who say what you will about his character, he has a presence about him. He has the feel of a star. He carries himself. He's just got that type of aesthetic that really makes you sit up and take notice. Like you were saying, you sit there and you may not be excited for the match beforehand, but by God, when the match is over, you knew that you watched something special. And I felt that way, in Philadelphia. It's kind of been overshadowed by Almas and Gargano, but Adam Cole and Aleister Black had a hell of a match in Philadelphia. Black and Cole, any other show, that would have been the match of the night and a match of the year contender, I do believe fully. You look at Black's performances, go back to War Games in November. His match with the Velveteen Dream, many people thought was the best match of the night. And that's pretty shocking when you consider the matches that were on that card. That was another great Takeover card. So, you've got two guys that can get it done in the ring. Two guys that both have A lot of potential in the company. It's going to be the main event. It's going to be for the NXT Championship. It's going to have plenty of time. I think, given the fact that the rumors surrounding Almas' call-up have been so strong for so long, I do believe we will be seeing a title change. I think Aleister Black will be winning the title. But if they decide to keep the belt on Almas, that is still a possibility. It's really a toss-up. Both men have a strong claim to it. I think it's going to be a fantastic match.
I agree.
Well, that leads to the final match, and it's probably not going to be the main event, although Lord knows it could be any other show. This match was made official last night. If we're speaking frankly, it's the match that got me to purchase tickets for Takeover. This is the match that I wanted to see in New Orleans. It's going to happen. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be fabulous. Every other adjective you can think of. This has been building up for a long time now. An unsanctioned match between Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. Where do you even start with this match?
I really wish I even knew. There's been so much of a build-up to this match ever since they split. And in the way they split, it was teased for so long. Nobody really wanted it to happen. Deep down, everybody was like, oh, if they really went at it, it would be great. We saw them go at it in the Cruiserweight Classic, and that was one of the better matches of the Classic, in my opinion. But here recently, just the work that these two have been putting in on air and even online with their Twitter feeds and everything you want to put that way, it just should be such a fantastic match. And I can't wait for this.
You notice we're using fantastic an awful lot. This card on paper is just absolutely incredible. It could go down as the best takeover they've ever done. And that is extremely high praise, given some of the cards that we've seen in the past. It remains to be seen, whether this in fact is the best takeover. It's definitely going to have a shot at it. But when you look at Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, this is the quintessential wrestling storyline. This is pro wrestling at its finest. You have two guys that were as close as brothers. Johnny Gargano betrayed by Tommaso Ciampa, who felt like he was being replaced. The injury to Ciampa was unfortunate at the time, but if there was a positive byproduct of his injury, it allowed the feud to kind of simmer. And it really gave Johnny Gargano a chance to really establish himself as a single star in NXT, and he took his ball and ran with it. He made the most of this opportunity. Johnny Gargano has become undoubtedly the biggest babyface in NXT, and he's established himself as someone that has the potential to be a major star for the company. He resembles Daniel Bryan in this way. He's the kind of guy that fans are going to get behind. He's a great in-ring worker. He's got a great character. He's somebody that's easy to like, someone that you want to see do very well. He's had a lot of rough luck in NXT the last couple of months. He's never really been the same emotionally since Ciampa turned on him. You go up through NXT TakeOver in Philadelphia. The end of that match, he's heartbroken. He lost out on a chance to win the NXT title. Gargano gets attacked by Ciampa with the crutch. Ciampa basically costs Johnny his spot in NXT, and Gargano snaps. It's a blood feud. I said this the other day. If this were in 1985 Mid-South Wrestling, both guys would donate enough blood to keep the Red Cross operating for a year. You're going to need the Louisiana National Guard to get Ciampa to and from the ring. It's just going to be an incredible pro wrestling fight. We don't see enough of those in 2018. We have some incredible matches. NXT already put out some match of the year contenders. This is going to be a fight. The passion, the emotion of this match, I think it's going to be one of, if not the best matches of the weekend. This is my pick for the greatest match of the weekend. And I think when all is said and done, Gargano and Ciampa have a chance to really make their mark in NXT here and leave the fans in New Orleans something really special.
I think the comparison between Gargano and Daniel Bryan is very accurate. And I also was going to mention that I think that Gargano, being one of the biggest baby faces in NXT, honestly, it might even transcend NXT. If he was on the main roster today, he'd probably have people chanting his name during matches that he's not even in. That's just how good this guy is and can be. That being said, when it comes to this match, I think it's going to be, like I said, one of the best matches of the weekend, if not the best. But I don't see Gargano coming out victorious, and that hurts to say, but I can see them using this as their way to call him up. I've heard they want to move him to 205 Live, which I think is a shame. He can do so much more than that. Not that 205 Live is bad by any means. It's definitely gotten better in recent weeks, but I think Gargano could move up to the main roster and do something really special if they've really put all in on him.
Well, let me pitch this idea to you. I brought this up the other day, and I was sitting here thinking about it, and the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. As you know, Shane McMahon dealing with some health issues. Apparently, he will be good to go for WrestleMania. At least that's the early word on his condition. But with the diverticulitis, the hernia surgery that he had, we're not really going to know for sure whether Shane McMahon is going to be able to compete in New Orleans at WrestleMania. You're not going to cancel the match. Daniel Bryan's return match is too big of a deal, so you're going to have to find a replacement partner for him if Shane McMahon can't go. What is your opinion on using Johnny Gargano as a surprise call-up to tag team with Daniel Bryan and becoming a new SmackDown competitor in the process?
If you're asking me that a Daniel Bryan and Johnny Gargano tag team match against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn would actually be possible, I would give you all the money I could. But let's be honest, with the way this match is going to go, I don't know if Johnny Gargano or Tommaso Ciampa, for that matter, are going to be able to get out of bed the next morning, much less wrestle another match.
It's going to be a fight. There's no two ways about it. I don't know that it's going to be a mat classic in the traditional sense. I think it's going to be more of a brawl, which is going to add to some of the flavor in New Orleans. You got so many different matches, so many different styles that are going to be on display. One thing for certain, I think we can both agree on this. This card is absolute fire. It could be on paper one of the best they've ever put on. I'm very much looking forward to it. We'll both be there live, and we'll be able to kind of talk a little bit about the event itself in the weeks to come. But right quick, before we move on to potential call-ups, let's run down the card one last time and give official predictions for each. Of course, we start off with the Dusty Rhodes Classic Tag Team Tournament Final and the NXT Tag Team Championship Triple Threat. Undisputed Era, Authors of Pain, Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong. Who you got in that match?
I think Undisputed Era is going to keep it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree. I think Adam Cole is going to fit in well with the team. I don't think that Pete Dunne and Roddy Strong are going to be long as a tag team, and I think the Authors of Pain are heading up to the main roster, so I'll go with the Undisputed Era as well. The NXT North American Championship ladder match, EC3, Adam Cole, Velveteen Dream, Lars Sullivan, Killian Dane, and Ricochet. I think you're going with Velveteen Dream.
I've changed my mind on this match at least 7 times in the past week. I think Velveteen Dream makes the most sense, because I could see EC3 moving up to the main event scene and Adam Cole possibly staying with the Undisputed Era tag team scene. If Velveteen Dream doesn't win it, EC3 would probably be my backup.
I am going to throw a curveball here. I think that the rumors of Ricochet going to 205 Live, they could be true, but I think they're a bit premature. I think Ricochet is going to be sticking around in NXT for a while. And I think when you're looking at a new championship, the best way to debut that championship is going to be having a strong babyface champion that the fans can get behind. That's my personal opinion. I'm going Ricochet here. I think Ricochet and the Velveteen Dream could have a ready-made feud for that North American title. Maybe as early as Takeover in Chicago coming up. We'll see, but I'm going to go Ricochet in the ladder match. Either way, whoever walks out with the North American Championship, they will have earned it, and it's going to be a fantastic match.
You're making me want to change my mind again.
well, before
That's how excited for this match I am. I can't decide who's going to win, and that's just so great.
It's like we said earlier. Of the 6 people involved, 5 have a strong case of winning. So we'll see how it goes on that one. NXT Women's Championship, Ember Moon and Shayna Baszler. I think we're both in agreement here that Shayna Baszler is winning the title, I think.
It's going to be Baszler. I can't see them keeping the belt on Moon at this point. I don't know who else they could have challenge her for the title. Baszler just needs this win, I feel like.
I would agree. The only wrench in the plan, perhaps, would be if WWE decides that Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler would work good as a pair. Now, here's the problem with this idea. Shayna Baszler is firmly a heel. And the impression I gather is that Ronda Rousey is probably going to be portrayed as a babyface. Now, we'll see how long that lasts. It may change after WrestleMania. Who knows? We'll see. I do believe at some point Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler will work together in some capacity. But if we're just talking pragmatically, looking at this championship match, I think Shayna Baszler needs the title if she's going to progress in NXT. I don't think Ember Moon can do much more with it than she's already done. Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane seems to be a ready-made story for Takeover in Brooklyn in August. That'll be the last Takeover special in this little run that they've been doing the last couple of years in the Barclays Center. It's going to be a fantastic match, rematch of the Mae Young Classic Finals. So Baszler is my pick. I think you're going Baszler as well. We'll see how that match winds up going. NXT Championship, main event, Andrade Cien Almas and Aleister Black. I think we're both going Black here.
Yeah, Black I feel like is going to be the one that comes out on top with this one. I think Almas is destined for the main roster. And it's having a Black as your mostly of a face champion. It sets up the EC3 feud that's possible. A Velveteen Dream rematch could be possible. And there's a plethora of heels right now in NXT that are really strong contenders. And I guess let's not even forget that Drew McIntyre could even be back sooner rather than later as well to try and get back to it if he doesn't go straight to the main roster as well.
That is a very interesting point, too. Drew McIntyre will be coming back here very shortly. I guess we should say Drew Galloway, Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
It goes by Drew McIntyre in WWE. I know him as Drew Galloway. However you want to recognize him, he's coming back. Whether Drew goes to the main roster or not remains to be seen. But I think we're both in agreement here. Aleister Black will be winning the NXT Championship here. And also, finally, the unsanctioned match. The match that's going to fill the arena in New Orleans. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. I think you're going Tommaso Ciampa, I think, is your prediction.
I think it's going to be Ciampa, and I almost hope that this match does not go on last or next to last. It could even be the first match of the night because the crowd is just going to be so hot for this match all night. I'm thinking Ciampa's going to win. He could be set up as your new big monster heel that could come up and go against Aleister Black potentially, and Gargano will be destined to go to the main roster.
I am going to go with Johnny Gargano, and I say that for this reason. If Johnny Gargano fails to win in New Orleans, that crowd is going to be so butthurt and so sour that I don't think you're going to be able to really recapture the mood if anything follows it. And I don't think that match will be the main event. NXT has done a pretty solid job of establishing the NXT Championship as the main event. It's very rare that the NXT Championship is not the main event of a pay-per-view special for the brand. We're looking at two guys in Ciampa and Gargano, both of whom are doing some of the best work of their career. Ciampa has, let's face it, been a complete and utter prick. He has been one of the biggest jerks in the history of humankind.
And it's been glorious.
It's been absolutely fantastic, and I will not dispute Aleister Black and Tommaso Ciampa makes me want to go and buy a plane ticket to Chicago right now. If that is the direction they wind up going in Chicago, that would be great. The reason that I think Johnny Gargano wins this match, having a rematch between Gargano and Ciampa in Chicago where the turn first happened last year, NXT strikes me as the kind of brand that really takes their story serious. They really put a lot of thought and effort into it. It would be tremendous from the story perspective for their feud to end in NXT where it began in Chicago. They have another takeover coming from Chicago the weekend of Money in the Bank. I think Johnny Gargano wins. I think he has the big emotional moment with Candice in the ring. You know, this match is what people are going to be talking about. This is why I love NXT so much. This is the kind of match that you only get in NXT now. It's just really hard to capture this level of emotion on the main roster because of the turnover rate, the amount of television they have to produce. NXT, you know, they can take their time. They can slow build angles a little bit more with only having 4 or 5 takeover shows a year. This match is the match that put me on the way to New Orleans. You know, if Gargano and Ciampa weren't wrestling, it's a very strong possibility I wouldn't be going to Takeover. But we bought the tickets hoping for this match. This match is going to happen. It is official, unsanctioned match. Gargano and Ciampa. I think Gargano finally gets a small measure of revenge. Because quite frankly, Johnny has had such a tough time of it in NXT. The poor bastard needs a win. So I'm going with Johnny Gargano. That's my official prediction. If Tommaso Ciampa wins, I hope he gets pelted with garbage because the dude is just a rat bastard that deserves it. And no, that is not true. That is just the emotion of the match talking. But again, you have so much riding on that match. It's going to be absolutely incredible. This whole card really is looking incredible. Of course, NXT TakeOver New Orleans. It will be the Saturday before WrestleMania, the day before. We'll be there live. We'll be able to give our live perspective the week after, once we return from New Orleans. Going to be, you know, the last pit stop on the road to WrestleMania itself. WrestleMania being the next day. It'll be the last show before Mania, and I think we'll get a better idea of how the post-WrestleMania scene may shake out once we get through Saturday. Talk a little bit about some of the call-ups we expect. You know, I think we're both in agreement. Andrade and Almas is probably destined for the main roster. Anybody on the card in New Orleans that you think is coming up after WrestleMania?
I think there's going to be a few of these people going to be moving up. Almas, as you said, we both agree. He's probably destined to be moved up. I feel like the Authors of Pain can come up, and depending on how the Raw Tag Team title scene shapes out after WrestleMania, if Strowman and whoever his mystery partner is ends up winning that title, the Authors of Pain might be the most realistic team to challenge someone with Strowman's size and strength. That could be a fun tag match that goes on there. When it comes to the ladder match, like I said, I've heard rumors of Ricochet moving up. I could see that. Killian Dane and Sanity also, I think their time in NXT is almost over. Ember Moon likely to move up. And if Gargano loses, I could see them putting him up on 205 Live, and ideally I would like to see him move on to SmackDown or Raw.
Do we both agree the Velveteen Dream will be staying in NXT for a while longer?
I think that he is, as you said earlier, a star in the making. He's still really young. He's still kind of honing in the character. He's got it down just about perfect, but I feel like more time in NXT, more time to get over, try to build himself up more NXT to eventually get into that point where he does become the NXT champion. I think that would do him all the wonders in the world. So I hope he doesn't come up right now.
Well, it remains to be seen what'll end up happening. Of course, at the end of the day, Vince McMahon is going to make the call, and if he says they're ready to come up, they're ready to come up. I do worry about people being called up before they're ready. You know, I don't like the idea of calling up Ember Moon right now. I just think that there's too much going on in the women's division. She's too good a talent. She hasn't really clicked all the way at NXT yet. I think she needs to make a few changes before she comes up. I think she's going to be lost in the shuffle if they're not careful, and she's too talented to just be lost in the shuffle. Yeah, I worry.
I'm hoping, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm hoping when it comes to Ember Moon that she's probably going to lose to Baszler here, and I'm hoping she still flounders around in NXT for a little bit, still improving, have a rematch, possibly lose her rematch before she does move up. A little bit of the fantasy booking in my head is I hope that the women's division on Raw and SmackDown will merge into one, And I think it would be really great, especially if the Iconic Duo comes up, if they would give the Raw and SmackDown Women's divisions a tag title that would go between both shows to give like a mid-card women's championship. You'd have the duo. You could also have Rousey and Baszler team up as the two-woman power trip. It could be fun. But I think Moon is destined for the main roster sooner rather than later, and I think she's going to be the one to go for Asuka.
Well, the rumors of the NXT, or not the NXT, the rumors of a new women's division tag team championship is quite intriguing, actually. There was never any specific word on the details. It may be something that we hear more about. Quite frankly, the women's divisions on Raw and SmackDown, I don't think they're deep enough to both hold a tag team championship on both shows.
Separately, no. I feel like you would have to combine the women's division into one that will split between the two.
Well, that would be the way to do it, I think. The problem is how you get from point A to point B. You have to be very careful about how you combine the divisions together on one show. You don't want, ostensibly you don't want the women's division to feel like a special attraction. You want it to feel like an organic part of the show because, let's face it, some of the performers in the women's division, whether it be Sasha Banks, Bayley, Charlotte, Asuka, Becky Lynch, you're talking about wrestlers that are not just great female wrestlers, they are great wrestlers, period. And we're getting to a point now where the women's division, the fans have been trained enough to recognize that the women's division is just as important as the tag team division or the mid-card or even the main event scene. It's just part of the show now. And so you don't want to create this kind of oddity in having all the women on one show. Maybe you could do some type of arrangement where you have the tag division go on one show and the women's division go on another. It could be a situation where the brand split ends sooner rather than later, especially if it looks like the USA Network may not be holding on to the rights for Raw. I know there's been some talk that if WWE winds up moving to Fox, that the brand split could be coming to a close. Could be a situation where you have the rosters merged back together, possibly as early as SummerSlam weekend or maybe next year's Survivor Series. There's a lot of different ways you could do it, but I think if you're going to do it, you need to do it right because for the amount of talent that you have right now in both women's divisions, so many people have been misused so poorly. Becky Lynch has been spinning her heels on SmackDown ever since she lost the title. Naomi, you could argue the same, has not been the same since she dropped the title last summer. You have too much talent to be wasting it. And that's something that we're going to see on the Raw side of things, especially, I think, post-WrestleMania. You don't have to have the title involved to have a great feud in the women's division. Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss, whoever walks out of WrestleMania with the Women's Championship on Raw, they're going to have their own feuds, their own programs to go into. Bayley and Sasha Banks are going to be working underneath that. You're going to have two, really strong angles in the women's division. SmackDown needs that same level of parity. Asuka will probably walk out of WrestleMania with the SmackDown Women's Championship, but you still need to find a role for Charlotte. You need a stronger role for Becky Lynch, for Naomi. You have Carmella with the Money in the Bank briefcase that's sitting there. You need to be deciding how you're going to use her moving forward. You have call-ups that are on the way. The Iconic Duo are almost certainly going to be going up to the main roster. We both think Ember Moon has a strong chance of going up as well. So you have a division on both shows that is full of talent. Now you have to figure out a way to use it properly. You got to figure out a way to build angles, build stories that people want to see. That's been a trouble on the main roster throughout the divisions. It's been a problem with the tag divisions on both shows at different intervals. It's been a problem in the main event scene, especially on SmackDown at different points. It's been a problem, overall in WWE. So it's not just a problem in the women's division. They have an incredible assortment of talent, but they've got to find a way to get people involved, I think, more interestingly.
I would agree 100% with you. I'm hoping they'll figure it out because you look at the state of the women's division and all the strides they've made here in the past few years between the Rumble, the Hell in a Cell match, the main eventing pay-per-view. I mean, they've made a lot of strides, and then you look at some of the talent they have, and it's just sad to see where they've gotten with them. I feel like it's not lost. They can still bring it back, but I'd hate to say that my faith is not exactly strong in them right now to get it back on track.
Well, that brings up a good point as we prepare to close on this week's edition of the show. WWE's main roster, they have not earned the kind of faith that NXT has earned. And I think as we're sitting here talking about this NXT card, if there's one thing that can be said about NXT over the main roster shows, is that NXT, you have more faith in their creative team to do the right thing than we have faith in the main roster's creative team. I think that when you look in totality at what WWE is trying to do at WrestleMania versus what we're seeing with NXT in New Orleans, NXT, no matter what happens on Saturday night, there's going to be a way forward. There's going to be a path forward. It's going to be organic. The fans are going to like where the show goes. There's enough talent in NXT to really make it work. In WWE, you have talent on both sides of the divide. Raw and SmackDown has talent in place that could make Monday and Tuesday nights an absolute joy. The problem is the talent are not being utilized like they should. This WrestleMania card on paper looks absolutely amazing. It could be one of the best they've done in a long time. But it's not just about WrestleMania. It's about how they use the performers they have moving forward. You have to consider there's people coming up from NXT. There's always some call-ups. You have Daniel Bryan coming back into the main roster. Where is he going to be slotted in the booking plans? Is he going into the main event? Will he be kept in the mid-card? Is he a special attraction? Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on the SmackDown side. They're going to stay a team. They're going to split up. You're going to move them to different shows. You know, there are so many questions that have to be answered. The one hang-up that we all have, I think, with WWE is that the main roster's creative has not been the strongest. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they could really put on some good shows after WrestleMania.
100% agree with you right there.
Well, Sayo, it's been fun, man. Very first edition of the Queen City Express is in the books. We'll be coming back with you next week for the second part of our look at WrestleMania Week's two big shows. We'll be coming at you Wednesday next week, as Thursday we'll be hitting the road for New Orleans. We'll take a look at the WrestleMania card. It should be finalized this coming Monday with the formal announcement of John Cena versus The Undertaker. That should wrap up the WrestleMania card. Of course, if we have any updates on the Takeover New Orleans card, we'll be sure to bring them to you next week. We'll be looking at the WrestleMania card. We'll also be talking about our plans for the weeks to come. Queen City Express is going to be a lot of fun, guys. We thank you for tuning in. Of course, I am Biff Kensington with my co-host Ryan Sayo. We will see you next week on the Queen City Express. Take care, guys. Being attacked by alien invaders from another world, or trying to pay your bills online? We've all been there. Life comes at you fast. When the going gets tough, the tough get listening. To these fine podcasts from the Cageside Seats family. Hey guys, Biff here, inviting you to check out some awesome podcasts available for your enjoyment right now. Metal Matt brings the aggression with the Ruthless Aggression podcast, airing every Friday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern. The fine folks over at Ringside Geeks are coming at you every Friday as well with exciting new content. Dave, Tom, Monroe, and John have got you covered. Check them out on iTunes or at their website, atomicgeekdom.com/ringsidegeeks. Ambrose Alley brings you the Violent Wrestling Podcast along with Prince Moxley Lopez, airing whenever they damn well feel like it. Everyone's favorite Canadian, Dennis Cowie, brings you the Roundhouse Wrestling Podcast. Check him out during his live streams on YouTube. And of course, the fine folks at the Shooting the Breeze Podcast invite you to their live streams every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern on YouTube. Check them out, enjoy them, and tell them Biff sent you from the Queen City Express. Sound us off, creepy demon voice guy.
The Queen City Express. The Real Deal. Mwah.